and welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your hosts, Buddy Sotelo, Esquire, Dr. Mike Leno, and Evan Ginsberg. So, we are back to the three of us. We don't always, it's always a different collection. You know, last week we had Benny and Blair, the killer bees, so to speak, on our show, and now we're back to the regular cast. So, Evan, you're back from vacation, right?
Yeah, let's hear what he did in Florida, because I know there was probably a lot of stuff for Evan to cover.
I'm working on my latest book. I was out in Orlando for 8 days, and to make a long story short, the people who do you should leave that hellhole New York for the paradise that is Florida, they're out of their minds. It's 100 freaking degrees every day. You know,
and we have a guest joining us. We have our guest joining us right now.
There you go.
Hey guys, what's going on? How are you, man?
Hey, Michael. Looks like we don't have your camera up.
I'll turn it on here in a minute. I'm actually driving, so I didn't want to turn it on right this first second.
Okay, well that's fine.
I think you should forget about the driving and turn this into a memorable fiery wreck.
Yeah.
That
would make a book right there, or a screenplay.
Yeah.
So, Evan, would you like to introduce our guest for tonight?
Sure. Michael Scott is an author, screenwriter, Rampage Pro, and 1CW Hall of Famer. And his books are Southern comedies that will make you laugh until something hurts, and psychological thrillers that will make you wish he didn't know you that well. That's interesting. And I know Michael a long time. He used to do my old show in New York, and we'll give him a chance to get home or pull along the side of the road or whatnot, and get him on camera at some point. But it's great to have Michael Scott on, a true Renaissance man, the kind of guest we like to have, not just wrestling, you know.
Yeah,
I want to know if the writing came first or the wrestling.
Well, actually, the wrestling came first. How can I explain it? It's a weird dichotomy. So, I've been watching wrestling since I was 3 years old, right? So 45 years now going on. And I started writing when I was about 10. So the wrestling definitely came first. They're both lifelong passions for me. I've always been a creative soul. There's a lady at work, and she'll tell you I've lived about 10 lives. And if my whole story is crazy, from writing books, doing the wrestling, acting in movies, preaching in tent revivals. I mean, just the whole 9 yards. I've lived a pretty cool life.
So tell me, you started off watching wrestling when you were 3 years old. Who introduced you to wrestling, and what sort of wrestling were you watching back then?
Yeah, what
it was my father and Georgia Championship Wrestling, man. I grew up in the days of Tommy Rich and the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and Abdullah the Butcher. And the other part that was cool about my dad, God rest his soul, was he loved just wrestling. He's seen wrestling all over the world. He was a Navy guy. He was stationed in Japan and the Philippines. So he got to see wrestling in Japan, and we watched wrestling in Japan. From Japan, he'd get the old tapes from RF Video and things of that nature. And so I grew up in those Georgia Championship Wrestling days, 605 WTBS, man. That's just the way it was, buddy. Let me tell you something. You didn't call my house at 605.
We didn't. 305 here in California. So yes, I get it.
It was real, brother, and
What year did you start watching, though? When you talk Tommy Rich, were you watching 79, 80, or a couple years later?
No, I was born 78, so we're looking about 80, 81 probably. I mean, I was 3. I really don't remember, but Mama says I was 3 years old when I started watching wrestling, so about 1980, 81.
So like Wahoo McDaniel, Ole Anderson.
Oh yeah.
Ivan Koloff.
Oh yeah. I met Wahoo many times. I met Ivan Koloff. I met Wahoo, Ivan Koloff. I've got a chance to work with some of the guys I grew up watching. Of course, I met Tommy Rich. I met Terry Funk. I don't think I met. I saw Flair at a convention one time. I've seen Ric Flair fight in the Atlanta Omni and the Macon Coliseum and some of the bigger Southern arenas. You know, that was like I grew up 20 minutes from Macon. So we would go to the Macon Coliseum to go see them for the Great American Bash Tours when they would come to town. And then when Ben Masters with Pete State would run, we'd always go to those little, you know, VFW hall shows or, you know, ice rink show, you know, skating rink shows. And Cordell
Roller derby, maybe?
Who's that?
Was it roller derby that you saw?
No, it was a roller derby. What they would do is they put it was at a skating rink, and what they would do is they put
roller rink.
Yeah, it was a roller skating rink, and they put the mats down, and they put the ring up, and they put the chairs on the mats inside the rink there.
You know, Georgia, that area was the site of an amazing, because I go back to the late 60s, but the early to mid 70s, there was some great territory wars. And Ann Gunkel's husband, Ray, famous wrestler, you know, died after working with Ox Baker. The promotion didn't take care of her. Long story short, she created her own outlaw promotion. A bunch of the guys jumped from the major Paul Jones, not the wrestler, but the promoter, Atlanta office to help her. Bruno Sammartino and Ernie Ladd came down, main event, and she outdrew them for almost 2 years before her promotion basically turned into that ICW, the Moscaris thing. But and then I'm going to shut up in a sec. A lot of folks don't know, all they ever heard about Atlanta from Georgia Championship Wrestling was the Omni, but the home of it for years and where I've shot twice in the mid 70s was the Atlanta City Auditorium.
Yes.
And I've told the story to Evan. I don't know if Russ has heard it. Fred Blassie came in just for Christmas. It was a Christmas show. I had family in Calhoun, Georgia, so we were there, and I got to go to the show and shoot. And Blassie's working as a babyface. You know, the Atlanta crowd hadn't seen him. He's a heel everywhere else except for Los Angeles, and he came in there and he works with Bill Watts, but he doesn't tell Bill Watts he's not going to take any bumps. And Bill Watts, like, the match turned into a real mess because Bill Watts was getting pissed. Fred wasn't selling nor taking bumps, and there was some shit going on in the locker room after the main event. But the Omni was much, you know, bigger, and it was like when they had the bigger shows that they wanted to get more, they knew more of a house was coming, they could charge higher for tickets, was the Omni. Right. And in the 80s, really when TBS got going from 79 on, the Omni was the permanent home. But prior to that, for decades, wonderful venue, Atlanta City Auditorium, that's long gone.
So I've heard of the Atlanta City Auditorium.
Yeah, it was a palace, a wrestling palace.
So, Michael, tell us how you got involved actually in getting in the ring and wrestling, your wrestling career.
This is actually, it's funny. I just pulled it in my driveway. So the how I got involved in wrestling is pretty funny. I worked for a radio station selling radio ads, and what happened was I met a guy, and I started traveling, trying to put on wrestling shows for different fundraising events and things. And I met a guy out of that worked the night shift, or late night shift, who's a DJ. He said, "Hey, I hear you're into wrestling." I said, "Yeah, I'm into wrestling." And he goes, "I know a guy named Eric Nelson." The guy actually introduced me to my wife, believe it or not. And excuse my dog. So he got me started, and that's how I got involved. Eric was the one that got me started in wrestling, and he got me trained up. Well, it actually started out with me being a ring announcer, and I was a ring announcer, and it's been the lifeblood of what I've done mostly has been an announcer and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until we had a guy from an Air Force guy joined that got me involved with the ring. So, yeah, hang on one second. And so there we go. All right, here we
There
are.
he is.
So, but that's how I got started in wrestling. I met a guy at the radio station. He introduced me to a Navy recruiter named Eric Nelson, who introduced me to Mike Bullard, God rest his soul. And they got me started, and I kind of just went from there.
What promotion did
with
you
the
work
one-
for? They were local Georgia Indies?
Yeah, local Georgia Indies. I was with All Star AWN, All Star Wrestling Network. That was the name of it. We ran out of a old garage, an old flea market garage, and there was no air conditioner. There's these big old fans. There was a fan up. There's a little drop light off the ceiling, and these big industrial fans in the doorways. I mean, this is as redneck as you can get, man. And and that's what it was. And those are some fun times, man. Yeah, I got started there. And then I met my wife through it, and I moved to Delaware, and she introduced me to Sean Hardy over at 1CW, and the rest is history, man. So,
Evan, do you have a question?
Yeah.
for him?
Yeah. So what do you consider some of the highlights of your wrestling career?
for me, the biggest highlight I ever did was I hosted a Q&A panel at WrestleCon. That was huge for me. Getting a tribute show when I retired from doing things in the ring, announcing the whole everything. I left, and when I retired, I got to have a tribute show, and I wasn't dead, so that was awesome. And because normally when you have these tribute shows, you're dead, and I got to have one, and I wasn't dead, so that was really cool, and my family got to see me, and the other big highlight was my brother. I came back for one match, and that was it. I was done. And my brother, who our backstory, our father always wanted to be a pro wrestler. That's why I grew up in wrestling, and he took us boys to wrestling all the time. And so, but my dad never did it, right? My father never got to see me do it. So my little brother got to be there with my niece and nephew, and they got to watch me. And my nephew will tell you still to this day it was the coolest damn thing he ever saw in his life, his Uncle Mike kicking somebody's ass. So, yeah, those are the highlights, man.
Did you work with any big names, or have in your in the Fed that you're with? Did any big names? Anyone go to the WWE or you know?
When I was doing a lot of the Carolina stuff, I did a lot with Charlie Armstrong, Charlie Hartman out of Carolina. So it was Gimmickry Entertainment. He would always bring in a name. You know what I mean? So I got to hang out with the Tommy Dreamers and the Jimmy Harts and the Eric Nelson of a Stranglehold, same way. I got to hang out with Bill Eadie of Demolition, Coco Beware, Road Warrior Animal. I got to work with those guys, and not in a wrestling standpoint, but as an announcer and an interviewer. The big panel I did at WrestleCon in Dallas was Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara. So yeah, that was a huge panel. I got to host it. It's on paper. It's on High Spot still. If you watch WrestleCon of that year in Dallas, I'm on High Spots Network. I mean, can't get no bigger than that. You know what I mean? So it, yeah. And but I got to know those guys. I got to work with those guys, and Jimmy Hart was awesome. Jimmy, Bill Apter. Bill is still a good friend, and yeah.
I've had a chance to work with Jimmy also, and I would agree with you. He was very nice, although I think he was really tired when he worked for our Fed, because it was like 105 degrees at bell time, and and he travels so much. I don't know how he does it still. That he's in his 80s. That he's like been everywhere, but still somehow managed to plug away with everything. So you went from wrestling, then at the same time you were writing and doing authoring stuff. Like, what led you to want to do both at the same time?
I'm not a guy that can. It's weird. I'm a weird dude. That's why the book about my life is called The Weird One. It's because that's what I am. I've just always been a that guy. I guess I've always been that creative guy that's just always constantly got creative juices flowing and moving. And I'm the one that I've always been one that believes in, if you have a dream, no matter what the dream is, to follow it, wherever it may lead. I had a dream to be a pro wrestler, and I did that. And when I was a kid, I was writing stories and stuff like that, and I always wanted to write a book, and I did, and it turned into 10 of them. So it was just kind of one of those things that I wanted to do acting and be in movies. And I think the only thing I've never accomplished, and that's okay, is I never did Saturday Night Live. I think I always wanted to do that, but I've done stand up on the stage. I've
There's
done
still
that,
time. There's still time.
There's still time. There's still time. Yeah. Well, I'm in Florida now. I'm semi-retired from damn near everything. So I'm enjoying that Mickey Mouse life. That's where I was when I was coming home. But yeah,
the good news about wanting to be on Saturday Night Live, you only have to do it for one night. So you only have to be around for
you
one
do
more
the
night.
rehearsal the whole week. You're there.
Oh yeah, you rehearse the whole week. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Lord Michael,
those boys work their ass off.
Yeah, he might cancel a sketch. Ev, is it Michael that you went down to Florida to help with?
My friend David Wilson was doing a book on financial literacy, but we connected with Michael and we went to Disney Springs. That's an interesting place.
What is that? Is that a separate park? We got like 5 parks there.
Michael could explain it better than me. It's like his home away from home.
What is Disney Springs?
Yeah, well, it really is. I mean, it's sad, but yeah. So Disney Springs, you have your parks. They've got 4 parks, of course. The Magic Kingdom, which is the original park. Epcot, that's where I was tonight. That's the other part, the other original park. And then you have Hollywood Studios, and then you've got Animal Kingdom, right? So those are the 4 main parks. Well, they also have a shopping district that's got restaurants and crap in it, ways to spend, to really rape you and get all your money gone. And that's Disney Springs. They've got stores there. It's got the world's largest Disney store. It's got the second largest Lego store, which I love that place because I'm a huge Lego guy.
We have a Disneyland here, same thing. It's called Downtown Disney, where they get you, but it's the free part, and the parking's free, which is surprising. Only up to 2 hours.
Well, that used to be, in California, you used to have Downtown Disney, which connects to Disneyland, and this does not. It doesn't connect to Disney World. I've been to the Downtown Disney. I remember when Disney Springs was Downtown Disney here in Florida, and it used to be called Downtown Disney here in Florida as well, but they changed it to Disney Springs. They reimagined it and then opened up a whole big thing. They redid it. They took out the old stuff. They had Pleasure Island. That was an adults only side of it, and they took all that out to add more stores and restaurants. So, we're always there. I'm always there.
So if you're a big Disney person, my grandfather went opening day 1955 to Disneyland. So I have like promo stuff and the big full page lobby card and
Oh wow!
Still have like quite a few sets of the A through E ticket books at Disneyland. You have to, the E rides were the great ones.
Yeah.
Members, you probably know that. And then they did away with all that stuff. The A rides were, of course, like the shooting gallery, the nothing stuff.
Yeah, the little stuff. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I wish I had that kind of stuff.
I don't know if you're a huge Disney. That's like the big deal now. There's a subculture of Disney adults that are into. So Ev, when you went to Disney World, like they have books out on like how to do Epcot in one day, Disney World in one day. You have to have a strategy, if you truly, unless you've already been there. I only went once and you really had to do a strategy if you wanted to get in all the good stuff. Like Epcot just blew my mind. There was all this stuff I'd never seen. So Ev, what did you do on your trip? And Michael probably has some input on that.
I sat in my friend's apartment and we worked on a book relentlessly. All I saw was this Disney Spring,
Oh, the
and
Disney Springs.
we went to we went to gospel singer Ty Tribbett's church. That was pretty wild. I'm the only Jew in America on vacation who goes to church, and yeah, I'm a big music fan. The guy's
But you
great.
did that with Al Green when you went to Music
Yeah,
City.
yeah. So I went to Al Green's church in Memphis too. That was amazing. And I saw the WWE pay-per-view at Dave and Buster's, which I had never experienced before. And it was like kind of strange because there's like 37 TVs simultaneously, and the sound doesn't quite match. So you're hearing that the guy's pinned, but on the screen that you're watching, it's like 10 seconds off, and he hasn't been pinned yet. So it's like exposing the business. You know, you're hearing the finish before you're seeing the finish. So that gets a mixed review. The Dave and Buster's pay-per-view experience. I don't know. It's like sensory overload. You know, you got all these machines going on and all this noise, and so they need to do like a mashup. You're watching all these there's like soccer on one screen and wrestling on the other, and then baseball on another, and it's hard to like focus, you know, and you're trying to have a conversation at the same time.
You need the eyes of a dragonfly. You need to like have, you know.
I was hoping Evan would have gotten to see NXT in Orlando. I think that was a pay-per-view quality event on the CW.
Yeah, I pitched WWE for tickets, and I never got so much as courtesy of a response. So what can I tell you? But I did it maybe 5 days before I went there. Maybe I should have done it earlier. But
they had a tailgate party. You could have gone to that with the wrestlers all outside and maybe taken pictures and interviewed guys.
I wouldn't know any of the NXT wrestlers. I've never watched it. I haven't watched it since Triple H, stole all the ROH guys and they turned them into like some kind of genius. These guys were stars for 10 years before they went to NXT. But that's the last time I watched it, when all the ROH guys were there.
Well, because Michael is in writing and stuff, have you ever thought of melding or going back to wrestling and doing booking or creative writing?
I have. I've actually applied for some WWE jobs with the writing. I would love to do it. I mean, I'm a creative person, and my passion has always been to tell a story. Especially like. Some of my booking choices would probably be different than how it is, because I still live in this old school mind frame. So I still have that old school booking idea kind of thing. But
Michael, tell us what would you change right now? How would you book certain things right now that are going on?
I think that we need a definitive bad guy and good guy. I mean, let's just be real with each other. There's no blend of reality anymore. You know, back in the day, if you look at let's take I just listened to Keith Green, I think it's Greenberg's book on the Sheik, Blood and Fire.
No, that's
great book.
Brian Solomon.
Brian Solomon.
I helped
Brian
him with
Solomon.
that book.
Sorry. That's
a friend of the show.
A great book. I was listening to that, and the way that just that fire heat, you know what I mean, like that hatred that he had for him. That's what draws tickets. You know, what draws tickets now, I mean, is who is more popular on a commercial and who's on a movie or whatever. But back in the day, it was how many people can I put butts in seats? You know what I mean? How many people can we get into this arena? So you had to have a good story, because nobody would just invest in anything. They wanted to invest in something they could believe in. They wanted to invest into the Dusty Rhodes versus the everyday man versus the Ric Flair, the rich guy who's trying to steal, you know what I mean, take that all away, got all his buddies involved in America's team, and can get behind that. And I think that due to the internet and due to Facebook and all that kind of stuff, and these young kids that are in the business, and I'm not calling them out, I'm just telling you how I see it, is
that line of the difference of reality and a story that used to be blurred is now gone, right? And so I think that somehow we would have to figure out a way to start bringing that back, because that really gets you involved in what's going on. It's not, and then when you're really involved, you're buying more crap. You know what I mean?
Well, Michael,
you're buying more
I have
merchandise.
kind of a thought about this, because we've talked about this on the show extensively. And let's see if you follow my logic here. To create a decent storyline, like over a year or something, means commitment to not just the Federation, to the guys, but the guys to the Fed. And right now, I don't think there's anybody in either AEW or WWE that knows that they're going to be in the Fed a year from now. I mean, there's so much volatility.
Well, they're going back to the Bloodline, which Bill and a lot of people, maybe not people from my era or Evan's era, as the greatest storyline ever, because it lasted so many years. The Roman Reigns Bloodline with his cousins, and that set that sort of apart. But you don't really have that in AEW. Russ is exactly right. They're just shotgun stuff. I mean, for example, they had a terrific pay-per-view that was like 8 hours last weekend. I don't know if Evan got to watch it or you guys got to watch it. Not the highlights, but the whole damn thing.
I saw the whole thing.
And they come back on Dynamite 3 days later, and you don't have, like, I'm not the biggest WWE fan, but they do things right. They do a whole video package. They show you even, snippets of the match, the finish, so you know who went over, what happened, why, how you missed a great pay-per-view. AEW went into like a guy on a microphone, two guys on a, backstage talking, and never was a video package of what a fantastic show the pay-per-view from just like 3 days prior or 2 days prior was. It boggles my mind.
That's because it's like
a missed opportunity there.
But it's also like they've got to churn the waters all the time. And what happened at the pay-per-view yesterday has to be forgotten, because you're building up a whole new angle and another pay-per-view.
There's no rush. There should be no rush. You should say, Jesus, Kenny Omega had an amazing match with Zack Sabre Jr. and now
got to get ready for the
Will
next pay-per-view.
Ospreay won. You didn't even know Will Ospreay. You sort of did, but finally. Will Ospreay, had an amazing match with Swerve, and he's the Owen Hart champion, and he's going to Wembley. And is it going to be against Kenny, or is it going to be against MJF? That sort of thing.
But it's this constant churning that you've got to, be ready for the next pay-per-view. You got to move on from what just happened.
Well, then you have no respect for storylines, which grab the fans, as Michael said.
There has to be a happy medium between doing the Bloodline for 27 years and AEW forgetting about the pay-per-view from 3 days ago. There has to be some happy medium.
And now they're back to the Bloodline. They're rebuilding the Bloodline all over again. The Usos are back with Roman, but, they added Jake and Bob too. And
6 years with the Bloodline already, and they say it's continuing at least another 2 years.
Yeah,
that's the only original.
Yeah, Heyman says they're only at the 6th inning of the Bloodline story.
Yeah.
And he's like
because they're leaning, but they're also leaning on that Samoan dynasty too. I mean, that's the thing you got to remember. Yeah, they got the Bloodline thing, right? But they're also kind of leaning on the past. They're leaning on the Peter Maivias, and they're leaning on the Alpha and Sika, and they're, you know what I mean? Like
show a Peter Maivia match so people know. They don't just see a still image. Show Peter Maivia against when he turned heel and Blassie was managing him, or whatever you want to show. Him as a happy-go-lucky guy who was, just ask Billy Robinson, who's they had a shoot match. You guys probably heard of it. Evan, I know, has heard of it, where Peter Maivia bit out part of his shoulder because Billy Robinson, who was a hooker shooter, was taking liberties with him, and Peter Maivia was a legit tough-ass, badass.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say he was a cannibal.
No. That's how they portrayed Alpha and Sika, which is ridiculous, because prior to that, they were the happy-go-lucky Islanders who cut their own promos way before they grew their hair long. And I'm talking 1971 through with Roy Shire, and then they were with Eddie Einhorn's group in '75, way before Off and Seek of the Wild Samoans, the quote unquote
Yeah.
wild cannibals, which is ridiculous. I
So-
thought only Abby ate raw chicken.
So, Michael, given those things that we just posed out there, how do you think there's a way to bring people back into storylines and to create, the kind of like passionate follow? Like, for instance, I'm right now watching the UWF over again, the Bill Watts version of it.
Oh, that's great.
The Free Birds and all that
Great.
stuff. Yeah.
It was fun. It's really fun to watch that stuff over again. The feuds were hot. There was a decent combination of squash matches, couple of them per show, but then you have 2 or 3 really good main matches, ones with, maybe like the Fantastics against Eddie Gilbert and Sting, for instance. I just got done watching that. And those were really entertaining. And I think there's another thing too about the fact that it was only an hour show. So they really had to pack that hour with a lot of action. There wasn't a lot of padding. And, Mike, you said, hey, you want to do the rerun of what happened in the pay-per-view, but sometimes the WWE
You
lives
can do a
off
short
of that.
video package in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And thank God you're talking about that. Thank God we're through with 3-hour SmackDowns, which is incredibly the shits to have to put up with. And now it's back to 2 hours, thankfully. Just started last Friday. Nobody can watch for 3 hours because of
Wrestling
you had
better with the
AEW
1 hour.
2.5 hours, and then the next day, Thursday, they put on the Collision for 2.5 effing hours. That's exhaustion.
Russell, you just made a great point about something, and you kind of answered your own question, and this is what I mean by that. You asked me, you said, Michael, how could you come up with a way to get people involved in storylines again, right? And then you started talking about UWF and the squash matches. Well, that's how you get the storylines back going again. The good thing about using enhancement talent for squash matches is these young guys that are coming up can work with some of the bigger names, right? And they can start learning a little bit underneath that tree while the bigger guys getting over. Let's say it's Cody Rhodes versus some schmuck out of like Schenectady that no one's even heard of before. I'm just making up names, sorry guys, but yeah, so this guy's learning from Cody. Cody's teaching him something in the ring. He's getting a little bit of education, right? And it's getting Cody, the more he beats people, the more of a badass he looks. And then the bad guy, the more badass he's looking as he's beating up the enhancement talent. And you get Cody Rhodes on the microphone. He's saying, Drew McIntyre on Saturday night pay-per-view, I'm going to kick your ass, blah, 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 blah. And then there is some point, like back in the old studio days, there's going to be a head where the guy's getting his ass is going to be up in the enhancement talent, and Drew's going to jump in. Every match now is the main event. Every match. You see what I'm saying? I hate to say it like this. This is going to be very, very crude. I'm going to say this. So please, I'm going to apologize before I say this. It's like watching an adult film and you see the money shot first. It doesn't make any sense. You see where I'm going with this? It doesn't make any sense at all. You're not building up. You're not getting. You know what I mean? There's no build up. There's no build up to the big show coming or whatever. This TV is meant, and it has always been meant for building up to the payoff, wherever the payoff is. Whether it's at the Atlanta Omni, that's why in the 80s, especially if you watch. I was watching Tommy Rich this evening before we had gone back out to Epcot. And he was talking about how Saturday night at the Omni, I'm coming to the Omni, brother. I'm going to get you. I forgot who was going against.
Buzz
I think
Sawyer.
It was Buzz Sawyer. Probably Buzz Sawyer, yeah. Buzz is coming. The last night, the big fight in Atlanta, building up, making Georgia on Wednesday night. I'm going to get you. You know what I mean? After he got through whooping up on a enhancement guy. But I think that's the secret. Right, I think that's the secret, but again, it's how to take everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants to get their crap in. Everybody wants, you know what I mean? There's no more of this, let's stagger it. You know what I mean? That certain individuals you don't have to see on TV every Monday night. Certain individuals you don't have to see on SmackDown every Friday night. Is you stagger it out where when the big guy shows up, boom, you see him at the live shows, but the live shows are the build up to the pay-per-view. The live show, you know what I mean? Not Raw.
Let me throw this before I go. I've got to go, Michael.
Yeah.
A long drive, but and I love AEW. I never fast forward through there on Wednesday nights. You know, it's a long show, grueling, but it's great. All the matches are great. However, they boggled my mind. Bill Watts who still got his smarts, was very vocal about this. They were going to have it was like 12 guys in a team within a cage. And that was set for the pay-per-view. But 2 weeks before that, on the Dynamite show, they had the match with all of the same participants, 6 against 6, Jay Briscoe's team versus MJF's team, which made no sense at all. Like, if you're trying to sell a pay-per-view and that's the main event, you're giving it to them free. But 2 weeks from now, and they'd already been advertising this well prior, for a month, say. So well prior to this, they have them in a free TV match, the same match you're going to see, but all they're doing in 2 weeks is putting them into a cage. All the same participants, right. Which I think any good booker, Bill Watts was a genius, Mid-South, UWF. You guys can discuss the logistics or the logic of that, because that was mind-boggling for me. I was just like, why would you even have those guys touch, let alone have a full match for 35 minutes on free television 2 weeks before you're advertising them in a cage? It makes at least Vince, for the horrific booking he did, he wouldn't let Hogan touch. Normally, you wouldn't touch the guy you're facing at the pay-per-view until you got to the pay-per-view. It just made sense.
Right.
Have a great show, you guys.
Thanks, Mike. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Yeah. Very cool career for you. And stay with it. We could use your booking smarts.
So, Mike, before we run out of time, tell us about your books.
All right. So I have a few books out, as Evan was alluding to earlier. Most of those are underneath the Duke Masters name. I do have a couple books underneath my own name. Those names are, I didn't want to blur the lines. What I mean by that is I wrote a book. I've been in supply chain for over 30 years is what I've done my whole life, and I'm a procurement professional by trade. And I wrote a book about how to do procurement transformations, and that's boring as hell, and that ain't what nobody wants to hear about. But I just want to throw it out there. But all the books underneath the Duke Masters name are the psycho thrillers and the comedy, because I'm kind of a dual personality, and I have a great sense of humor. I came from a very colorful family. They just left here this morning about 5 a.m. And I was able to tell some funny stories, with the tough family stories, a family that is based upon my family. And then we have the Collector series. We just released the third book and final book on that, The Reckoning. It's a 3-book trilogy. The first book's Hunt for a Killer. It's about a cop looking for a serial killer and how that comes down. And then Obsession. And then how it all ties back to the serial killer. All 3 books all tie back to the serial killer, which is really cool. And then there's a book called Family Survival that I actually had the idea for at Disney. And I came up with the idea for Family Survival at Disney. I was on a safari, and it was getting late at the night, and I said, I wonder what would happen if this damn thing broke down. We were by the lions. I said, if anybody couldn't get to us and whatever, and that's what triggered the Family Survival.
Interesting.
And then that's how that I've been playing that idea. And then The Change, which is a story that I came up with about a guy who there's a chip in the year 2047, there's a chip that rich people can get installed in their brain, and what it does is it changes how you think, it changes everything, it controls you, it just it can change your life, right? And I said,
Someone
well,
needs
what
that for
if?
Elon Musk. Someone needs to stick
Yeah,
that in
right,
for
yeah,
Elon Musk.
yeah, right. So what I decided was, well, what if this chip could be gotten by a poor person, somebody that's a down on their luck guy? And one thing about me, and I'll say that to say this: every book that I've ever done, including the business side of the Michael Scott side, it's all been wrapped around the common man. And I'm not trying to be the next Dusty Rhodes. I really, really ain't. But I believe in it. I believe in the common man because I really believe that they don't get the shot that they get that they're supposed to. You know what I mean by that? Like the rich people are the ones that have all the cool stuff. You know, and I think that that the common man, that stories need to be written for the common man and talk about their struggles. There's guys out there that are going through what the guy in the Changes went through. He's been through 6 jobs in 5 years. He
Well,
can't
yeah,
keep a job.
you say Dusty Rhodes, not to take too much from him, but he has his hard time speech.
Right,
You know,
right.
is going right down where you're headed right now.
Yeah. And so it's that, you know, it's that thing. And I think that every American can resonate with that. So I said, well, what if there was a way? And of course, poor people can't get it like rich people, so they can't. Sometimes you can't get it from the source. You got to get it from a secondary source. You know what I mean? Like an Amazon or something like that. And so, what ends up happening is the guy that I'm not going to get into it too much. You have to get the book. It's on Kindle Unlimited for free, but read it. It's a really cool book. It's a psychological thriller. Yeah. So, you know, I even wrote under the Michael Scott name, there is a book called The Fan, and it's a book about a guy named Big Rick McGraw, who is a pro wrestler out of North Carolina, and one of his biggest fans is an abused housewife, and he's going through his own personal hell. And they meet and fall in love. It's actually kind of loosely based on me and my wife and how we met. That's where the idea came from. And yeah, that's also on Kindle Unlimited and also in paperback. So yeah.
Prolific.
Now, here's something that I definitely need to mention to you, especially it being July 5th and giving your wristband and your T-shirt. When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. If he's led to a fight and a duel is due, then the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield. Are you a big comic book guy?
I am a big comic book guy. In fact, Captain America is one of my favorite characters. My favorite character is Ghost Rider, believe it or not. And I wish there was more Ghost Rider merch. I wish. I've got one piece of Ghost Rider merch in this house. I don't see it right now in front of me. It's a Lego set. It was just one. But I'm a huge Ghost Rider fan. Again, I'm really drawn to the tormented souls. Like tormented souls for some reason, just maybe because it's me, I don't know. But the underdog and the tormented souls, man, I'm all about. So actually, yeah, Ghost Rider is my favorite Marvel character. Batman, of course, is my favorite DC character. So
interesting.
I'm about the tortured.
I'm a Martian Manhunter guy, and I really love Walt Simonson's Thor. You know,
oh yeah,
Walt Simonson. I sat next to Walt Simonson at a comic book convention and talked to him all weekend long. He signed my 337, but this is not a comic book based discussion. Although I could easily talk comics for a solid hour and not even touch wrestling. But there is kind of a relationship between the comic book world and the wrestling world, wouldn't you say? You know,
yeah.
There's a tie between them. I mean, a lot of people who are comic book fans are wrestling fans. You know, wrestling has that larger than life kind of thing, and it's all action, you know, which is what you tend to like when you're reading a comic book, you know, and it's just amazing to see both things, both comics and wrestling, which are things both my dad totally detested, by the way. Even though he liked him as a kid, he hated wrestling and he hated comics. And yet now it's, he was a big stamp collector. I said, Dad, there's never going to be a movie based on a stamp. There's never going to be a multi-million-dollar movie franchise based on a stamp. But comic books, wrestling, that might be a different story when we get older. And he's like, no, it'll never happen. And of course, it happened. So I got the I told you so on him. But do you feel that like some of what you do in some of your love of comics bleeds over into like your wrestling stuff and your writing stuff and vice versa?
Yeah. You just hit the nail on the head, though. But I think that the way to get over in the wrestling business is a very simple thing. It really, really is. And I think Evan would agree with me on this. All it is you amped up to about 1,000, right? Because if you cannot connect to yourself, you cannot connect to a crowd. There's no way. There's no way, because you're being fake and everybody can smell fake like you just crapped your pants. It's just, you smell shit. You know what I mean? You just smell it, right? So if you have some of that in you, you take that little, and I've tried to, when I've done seminars and talked to kids and, about promos. I was doing a promo for a while. I was doing promo seminars, and I would just say, hey, man, the secret to this is not a secret. Take your gimmick, make sure your gimmick is tied to you. It's got to be something in your personality. Like, my gimmick has always been the Big Mike, which is the Southern man and all that kind of stuff. That's real. I grew up from Georgia. I grew up in that era. I grew up, driving the truck and working hard and growing up and living in a trailer and living on, welfare and all that kind of stuff. I grew up in that. I speak that language because I understand that language. I understand what it's like to have nothing in the refrigerator. I understand what it's like, you know what I mean? So you take that and you amp it up. It's part of me, but the volume is turned way, way up. And I can connect to that person.
I 100% get that. But why do you think that's so missing in today's, wrestler?
Look at the mat when you watch the WWE. That's why. Look at the mat. You know what I mean? You know what I mean by that? I was watching a WWE match. I think I was watching Raw. Just for a minute. And on that mat, I saw a Slim Jim logo. I saw a Netflix logo. I saw this logo. I saw that logo on a damn wrestling mat. That's why. Because what people are losing is, it's really the way that the society is. Doctors are like that too, really, if you really think about it. It's all like that. No one wants to invest in anything. They want to get the quick. They want to get the, hey, all right, let's get our spots in, let's get this in, let's get that in. But I don't want to invest in the actual character. I don't want to invest in the time it's going to take to really turn it up. You know what I mean? But the guys that are getting over, like the Cody Rhodeses and stuff, that's really Cody Rhodes. He really is Dusty Rhodes' son. You know what I mean? He's playing it to a hilt. But I think that I've been in locker rooms where kids are talking about, well, I'm going to do this elbow and I'm just going to like strut and do this thing, and he's going through. I'm like, who are you, kid? Nobody even knows who the hell you are. They're not going to give a shit what kind of elbow you drop. Just drop a damn elbow. That's not what's going to get you over, guy. You know what I mean?
Everybody wants to script in. Everyone wants to script in the finish, and nobody wants to script in the actual, like, what gets you to that finish or how it makes any sense whatsoever in the ring. And you have 15 different, finishing moves. You and I, we go back to the idea that, figure four was a finisher. You rarely ever got out of one. And so it really made you believe. The claw was a finisher. You didn't fight your way out of it. Guy got in it, and that was the end. A sleeper was a finisher. And people didn't kick out and fight out of each one of those things. But for God's sakes, everyone wants to think of when they're doing the finishing, and they don't ever think about, well, what about me getting the finish done to me? Am I ready to sell that? Oh, I don't want to sell that. I'll look weak. I got to jump right up from the, pile driver that's come off the top rope through 5 burning tables. I got to jump right up after a 2 count, and I can't look weak on something like this. And
Well, wrestling is a give and take business. It really is. Wrestling is a give and take business, right? And every good historian, like Evan and other, you and myself, we understand that. But these kids today, they don't understand it. They got this tape mentality. Take. Let me get my spots and let me get my shit in. Not, wait a minute, if I get my shit in, is this going to make sense? Is this really where we're going with this? I want to get my stuff in over and over, guy. Why am I doing that? My job as an underneath guy is to get the over guy over. That's my job. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting the big guy over because he's getting ready to get us more money because and plus the guaranteed contracts is also what's killing it. Back in the day, it was how many asses can you put in the seat and it's how much money you're made, and then they made a portion off the gate, everybody going on down the line. So and the more people you put in the building, the more money you made. You know what I mean? So it was, but I think it's the society that we live in. We want this quick thing and it's in every aspect of our life, even in our personal lives.
I think what you have to say about wrestling is fascinating, and you have definitely deep thoughts as far as how it all works and booking and all this stuff. And I'd like to get in even deeper on all this stuff, but we're out of time. So we want to have you plug everything. Tell people, our fans, how they can get a hold of you through social media and so forth. And then we definitely want to have you back. I'd
love to come back. Thank you.
Maybe you'll have a book coming up and we'll be able to help you promote it.
Well, I've got 2 screenplays that we're trying to pitch right now. We'll see what happens. We can talk the movies, you know what I mean?
Tell the viewers quickly about the movies.
So I wrote 2 screenplays. One was called Slingin', which is a buddy comedy. It's more of a National Lampoon's meet Waiting, is basically what it is. From my years as the drink business, I put some funny stories in there and changed some of the situations, but the names are different, but the situations are the same. And it all leads up to this big blow off in the end, and there's a running joke all through the movie. There's one running joke all through the movie, and then it gets to the end, and then the ending happens. And then I wrote Member of the Family, which is based upon a short story I have. It's about a guy from a traveling salesman from North Carolina who's getting ready to retire and go to a desk position to be with his family because his family is noticing that he feels detached from his family, and he finds a body in the back of a van, and all the craziness that happens with that, and then you learn why the thing is called Member of the Family. That is also a short story on Kindle Unlimited. All my books are on Kindle Unlimited right now, under the Duke Masters pen name, which if you're a fiction fan, it's all the horror and the comedy. Also under Michael Scott, I've got a few. I've got The Weird One, which is based on my life, which we're actually rewriting now to include all this new stuff that I've got going on and all the changes that have happened. And then from Dirt Tables to Dirt Roads to Deal Tables, the Procurement Transformation Handbook. Very proud of that. It is meant for small businesses to grow their business and to grow their procurement departments and get their ROI, maximum ROI, return on investment for what they're doing, and get their seat at the table instead of always being the big boys. And again, everything I do is based upon the little man. It's all about, really pushing him and really helping him and getting him where he needs to be, because I believe in the society that we live in, that we should all be able to make money. And so that is not just really related to the rich and the powerful. It's also to the little guy, because he's more powerful than the rich guy. So, So those are my books.
There you go. The prolific Renaissance man, Michael Scott. Thanks for coming on the show.
Guys, thank you guys so much.
quickly let our fans know how they can get a hold of you through social media if you're up for such a thing.
Yeah, you got it. I'm on Facebook, Michael Scott. You can also follow my pages. Blackcrest Strategic Group is my business page. The Duke Masters is my personal page. My writing that I do, my fiction writing. Follow those on Facebook. I'm there. You can connect with me any way you need, and you can find me. We can talk.
Wow. Well, you've been fascinating to talk to tonight. I'm glad you could see us on such short notice, and we definitely want to have you back so you can give us more info, especially if you've got another book coming up or one of your screenplays gets looks like it's being made into a movie. Looking forward to it.
Oh, great, guys. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. Good talking to you both of you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
See you next week, everyone.
You
Good night.
too.